West African region. Now, if you do recall, when the situation in Niger occurred, Burkina Faso and Mali immediately declared support with, the Nigerian military forces. Just this week alone, the Nigerian embassy in Niger was burnt down by the people. There have been protests against the ECOWAS chair, saying he shouldn't intervene on what is currently ongoing in Niger. In fact, a group of individuals led by former General Abdusalami Abubakar was led to Niger Republic, where they can have a dialogue and hear what the military junta's clamor is or what their issue is concerning the administration of Bazoum. However, they refused to have any negotiation with the team by the Nigerian team. Actually, they disowned the Nigerian team. The cut ties actually with Nigeria and the ECOWAS states. It tells you that they really meant business. Guess what? France also called out and said, you have no right to depose President Bazoum. You have no authentication. But guess what? Now the Nigerian military group said they no longer listen to the French authorities. They said the French authorities have taken over the natural resources, taken over their government, and literally put them in a state of impoverishment. Unfortunately, the colonial masters of some of these West African nations controlled by the French are usually in multi-dimensional poverty, very low economic value. They have a lack of infrastructure and seem to be decades behind when it comes to development. And the question now is that we're asking ourselves is, what is going on in the Sahel and what's going on in West African countries going back to the military regime and no longer embracing democracy? And how come the ECOWAS is deciding this time to steal its spine, a spine that seemed to have been bent since they did not do anything in Burkina Faso? They did nothing as well in Guinea-Bissau as well as in Mali. Now, in order for us to talk more about this, I actually have in the studio Barrister Joe Nwokedi. Barrister, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Political Spotlight.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. Now, I also have joining us virtually a barrister. Okay, he said I shouldn't call him a barrister, so I'm going to call him, he's a legal practitioner. I have joining us virtually a legal practitioner, a social affairs commentator, a political enthusiast as well, Eluche. Eluche, good evening and welcome to the Political Spotlight.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for taking your time to join us. In fact, Eze Luche is trying to celebrate his daughter's graduation, and I called him at the nick of time, and he decided to spare his time to be part of the program this evening. It tells you that really enthusiastic when it comes to discussing national issues. So I actually appreciate you taking your time to be here. I'm going to start with you, Barrister Eze Luche, because I do know that I've had this conversation with you earlier in the week. The question now is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu trying to show a stay of strength? We do know that when the situation in Mali happened and Burkina Faso happened, we did not see the ECOWAS being active therein at all. So the question now that the military junta in Niger are asking is, why are you not letting us be? You let Malians be, you let the Burkina Faso be. Why are you not letting us be? How come you want to show your sense of strength? So what's your response to that?
Response is where we have is the outcome of events across the world. My own personal response is that Bola Tinubu is being used by the West to destroy Niger and ECOWAS for geopolitical reasons. He is used. Because we take the proper sample opinion, leaders of regional leaders, political leaders, not just in Nigeria, but across West Africa. In the other contiguous Niger Republic, you ask the opinion of all those guys. Then again, military intervention in Niger. Ask your leaders across the region in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. The people are all against this military intervention in Niger. Then when you ask yourself, what is pushing Mr. Tinubu into this disastrous venture? It's only the one, external pressure. External pressure in the sense that Mr. Sanwo-olu knows the reality of the Nigerian election. Yes. He knows that the Tribunal
president
knows that he needs the support of the West to do whatever he wants to. So not to the interest of Western powers. When I say Western powers, I mean Franklin, then Britain, and the United States of America. These are very unfortunate, but these are things that must realize and address. He's not doing this for West Africa. He's not doing this for the press. He's not doing this for
Wow.
so keep the goods of
But Barrister Essa, I
Yes.
sincerely apologize. The network is not friendly at all. I literally cannot hear you, but we will do something.
Okay,
So
then
we'll have to do it.
Let me just
We'll have to do it via the telephone. I'm going to call you shortly via the telephone
Okay,
because
no
it's
problem.
important that I get to hear your input on the program. Thank you so much. I'm
Okay,
going
no
to call
problem.
you on the via a normal cellular call now. So, Barrister Joe Mokedi, here is the situation because, like I was saying earlier, that has been the conversation that has been trapezing the political space in the country. And the reason why this particular situation seems to be garnering a lot of conversation is the fact that Niger and Nigeria share very close borders. We have intermarried. They're literally like family members, okay? We have a lot of trade with this country, especially for those within Sokoto and yes, within Sokoto, Kaduna, that particular axis. They literally have trade with these Nigerians on a daily basis. Now, the Nigerians said that they were very angry with Tinubu's ultimatum of 7 days, and that was why they literally did not want to have any conversation with the team that was sent to them to have a dialogue with. Although I think they've eventually been able to soft pedal and agree on the negotiation that was had earlier by a particular, I think I read it out earlier during the news. But the thing now is the fact that despite this negotiation, there is a lacuna. There's a problem within African countries. The problem has to do with the democratic style of leadership. For the Nigerians to be happy about the deposing of their president, that is the democratically elected president, President Bazoum, and having to embrace the military regime, what does that actually say?
It tells a lot regarding the way we manage democracy in sub-Saharan Africa. And it's quite regrettable because in democracy, it's a kind of a situation that who guides the guts. Who guides the guts? You vested the power, the authority, the commonwealth, the future of the whole country into the hands of some people that derive their legitimacy through election, through their votes, through the ballot. Then some of them, when they get to that exalted position, instead of focusing mainly on the well-being of the people, they are lost in acute corruption, embezzlement, fraud, and all sorts of things. They are lost in acute authoritarianism, impudent dictatorship. They violate the country's constitution. They manipulate the system in such a way that some of them even want to perpetuate themselves in power. So want to amend their constitutions to become life presidents. They destroy every tenet of democracy. They don't allow free and fair election. They don't allow the voices of people to prevail over their personal wishes. So instead of people rejoicing for having government they ought to call their own, because that's the sense of democracy.
Yes.
Government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
For the people.
Where the people will reign supreme. In democracy, people are the supreme authority. They determine and decide whatever a leader does or doesn't do.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in African system here, we are not practicing that democracy as it was propounded by the Greeks. We're not practicing it. That demonstration,
All right.
gathering of the people and the voice of the people, demos and creation. We're not practicing it. So now what do you expect the people to do? And they became so emboldened. You know, when military people are doing certain things or going off the track, you might condone it a little bit because you know that we are not trained to become purely democratic. But when a democratically elected president has become so dictatorial, so haughty and so arrogant in dealing with the people, and have deprived you, I mean the citizens, of that power you have,
okay,
to even have a say, either in the policy formulation, in policy execution, or even the change of the government. Because the beauty of democracy is embedded in the capacity of the citizens to change their leaders at will, within the stipulated constitutional provisions, like every 4 years, or 2 years, or 3 years. That's why when they say that the worst civilian government is better than the best military regime, they don't mean that they like hardship. But in democratic system, you have a time frame within which to get rid of this man. Like I remember when Buhari was the president, people were shouting 2019. When 2019 eluded them, they began to shout 2023, we'll get rid of this man. Just on my point now.
Yes.
And 2023, they got rid of him. Whether he's good or bad, they know that this man will leave our system in 2023, whether he likes it or not. That's the beauty of democracy. You determine when tenure of a government will terminate, or whether it will be elongated. And then what's the final specification for that tenure, years of the office, that governor or president or whosoever will not have the right to contest again.
Okay.
But inside West African subject, what are we seeing? A situation where presidents are amending the constitution for them to go for a third tenure, for them to even go for a fourth tenure.
Which almost happened with former President Obasanjo. He almost did the same thing.
He had a body language.
Yes.
He didn't come out one day to say he wanted it. But we saw his foot soldiers and his recruits almost making that attempt. But see, today he denied it. But we know.
No, but there were reactions afterwards. Yeah.
Without fire. There's some other countries, also Zambia, former Zambian president, I can't remember his name, actually tried some. He later died recently. He tried, they're not like that. Even South Africans are not like that. We saw Jacob Zuma, is that Zuma? Yes, standing trial. We even saw Thabo Mbeki walking the streets of South Africa. Even the current president, he's still, South Africa, they seem to have gotten it right with their own democracy. But in Nigeria here, we're having issues with the lifestyle of our leaders.
Very deep issues.
The impunity, the squandering nature of our resources. Even when they tell you to manage, you discover they don't manage it on their own side. The rigging, impudent rigging of elections. Because the most painful aspect of democracy is when you decide that a person will be your leader.
Yes.
And the people at the corridors of power shall change that person and impose someone that you never wanted to lead you. When they have killed their intention to continue participating in democratic exercises in the near future, they have destroyed that authority, that sovereignty you thought you have, that will enable you as a citizen to change the system for good. They've destroyed that, and they will also not care about your existence, because they know that they didn't, ascend to that political office through your powers, through your choice. They did it through the muscles of their finances or whatever contact or connection they have. So their allegiance will not be to you. So collectively, democracy is being threatened in West African sub-region. So when you have all these angels, like what IBB said, he said that they always look at an avenue for them to strike as soldiers. Now, one thing is that when politicians begin to rig elections, they know that the system is becoming ripe for them to strike. And when they come up with unpopular policies, and when they unleash hardship on the people, the military will strike, and they will garner the support of the people.
All right.
Now, most of the military coups always look out for that avenue. If you look at most of all the countries in West Africa that experience all this military regime, they always look out for the time that our politicians will begin to behave as alpha and omega.
Okay.
Begin to manipulate the system, rig the elections, overturn the result of the elections, manipulate and cow the judiciary.
All right.
Or pocket almost all other arms of the government. Now what happened in Nigeria, you can hardly differentiate, although I have to give kudos to the Senate for even their whether cosmetic refusal of deploying Nigerian troops.
No, of course, you do know that the Northerners were definitely not going to allow that, because it was definitely going to affect that particular region.
I always say Northerners, but I've asked them, do we have a dissenting voice from the Southern senators?
Well, no, of course not.
So I don't want that division that it was Northern senators that made the Nigerian Senate not to approve that request to go to war. Because we have seen Southern senators having dissenting voices, or there will have been a call for votes.
Yes.
So if Northern senators in their majority were able to have their votes to third saying no, we don't know it was them that voted against it.
Okay.
But as far as
I need to now, okay.
We believe it's Nigerian Senate.
Barrister Eze-Oluche, good evening. Are you with us now? Can you hear us very well?
Yes, very well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Barrister Eze, increasingly, right, West African democracies are being done by the military. Now, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea are fully under military rule, and now Niger has joined the Jackboot League. Although the coups have so far been limited to francophone countries, and some grandeur words are being said about getting rid of French imperialism and possibly replacing it with a Russian expansionism, right? But every other West African country has a reason to fear that an agenda is at play. So there is a question of where next, especially for Nigeria, which borders Niger, and it also has every reason to worry about harboring an enemy next door. So what does this portend for the Nigerian democracy?
Well, thank you very much. Now, we have to be very careful with our definition and practice of democracy.
Okay.
Democracy, we can understand what democracy is. It is the wish of the people in governance taking preeminence. So the fact that you set out a date to claim that you're going to have elections, and you don't even have elections, you waste people's time, and you manipulate the process, and you declare somebody a winner, means that you don't really have a democracy. So across most West African countries, we do not simply have democracy. It's like what transpired in Nigeria. If democracy means government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and if people express their opinions and their wishes and desires on election day, the fact that somebody comes out and announces another person as the winner of that process means we simply do not have a democracy. So let us not be too technical about democracy. That democracy does not mean that if you are wearing civilian uniforms and you're not wearing a military uniform and you have an election day, then you have a democracy. No. And across West Africa, the so-called democracies we have are actually people who have already staged coups against the constitution. Because if you make yourself a president-elect, or you become a president of any territory without due constitutional process, you have in reality undertaking or stage a coup against that regime. If the law of your country says that you have to have 1, 2, 3, 4 criteria before you become president, and you are made president without having those criteria, that in essence is a coup. A coup does not really mean that somebody must die or soldiers must be shooting guns. It could be a bloody coup, like when they have to shoot their way into office, or it could be a bloodless coup, like when you have somebody just come up, whether it says it's the electoral umpire, and the total distribution for what? Suppose it to Western countries like France, Britain, or the United States. Any of them that are these three particularly who are pushing Tinubu to go to war against Niger Republic should be ashamed of themselves, because this is exactly what they are accusing Russia of doing in Ukraine. They are accusing Russia of invading Ukraine. So why are these countries now ready to support Niger and Nigeria under the guise of ECOWAS to invade Niger Republic? Niger Republic is at peace now. There's no death, there's no shooting, there's no violence. People are celebrating the ouster of a dictator, and they are hailing the new military juntas. And France, Britain, and the United States are trying to bolster support for ECOWAS to go and invade Niger Republic. And tomorrow they will be saying they are going to war against Russia for invading Ukraine. Come on, they should give us a break. And they just should rise up and say, look, with this effort by ECOWAS, by Mr. Bola Tinubu, let us even stop using the word ECOWAS, because not ECOWAS. This effort by Bola Tinubu and his corpus in ECOWAS
to destroy the amity in ECOWAS, to destroy the people of Niger, must be resisted by Nigeria. And let it be enough warning to our soldiers.
All right, Barrister Eze, I need you to hold on a bit, because I want to play a particular audio by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, his reaction to when the president said that there should be an invasion. Then he eventually went to the Senate, he wrote an appeal to the Senate, and where they debunked it. Let's take a listen to that.
On the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as chairman of ECOWAS, to further encourage other leaders of the ECOWAS to strengthen the political and diplomatic options and other means with a view to resolving the political impasse in the Niger Republic. On the streets.
So that was Godswill Akpabio actually saying that there should be other alternative means to having a dialogue with the Nigerian government rather than having to go through the military invasion. I also want us to listen to this particular piece. It's quite important for us to understand the perspective we're coming from so that we know where we're heading. So please, let's quietly take a listen to this.
One thing that keeps me puzzled, despite having studied finance and economics at the world's best universities, the following question remains unanswered. Why is it that 5,000 units of our currency is worth 1 unit of your currency, where we are the ones with the actual gold reserves? It's quite evident that the aid is in fact not coming from the West to Africa, but from Africa to the Western world. The Western world depends on Africa in every possible way, since alternative resources are scarce out here. So how does the West ensure that the free aid keeps coming? By systematically destabilizing the wealthiest African nations and their systems, and all that backed by huge PR campaigns.
Now, Barrister Eze, that literally classifies what exactly is currently going on in most rich West African nations, where it literally feels like we do not have control of our natural resources, or almost like the West tell us that the best way through which we can have control of our natural resource is if we're able to share our natural resource with them. Barrister Eze, do you think that the Nigerian government doesn't literally understand the magnanimity of what it takes for the fact that Niger, its neighboring country, it's already on a military administration? Burkina Faso, Mali, and we're still expecting that something similar may actually happen in Senegal. Do we think that the Nigerian government doesn't understand the intricacy of what is currently going on?
The Nigerian government practically understands this very well. The Bola Tinubu-led regime understands this very well. That is why it has disregarded the support or the voice of the people, and it's rather willing to run to external sources to gain credibility and credence. What Bola Tinubu is now doing is just trying to maybe fight for his survival, and he hopes to get that from listening to foreign powers, not to Nigeria. So he understands this. And by the way, do we really have a democracy in Nigeria? Nigerians were against the military and the increase in price flow. Did the government listen? No. Nigerians are against the hardship they are going through. Is the government listening? No. Nigerians want a smaller government, less ministers, less overhead. Is the government listening? No. So the Nigerian regime of Bola Tinubu is very much aware. And in my own instance, by my calculation, there is virtually nothing different from a coup regime, from a regime of coupists, and that of Mr. Bola Tinubu. It is unfortunate that we keep on doing this with ourselves. The people of Niger Republic are a major producer of gold and uranium.
Yes.
But they are always described as the poorest country in Africa. And the reason is this: France comes into Niger and mines gold, takes away uranium, and takes back to France. Because the bulk of electricity supply in France and part of Europe is generated by uranium from Niger Republic. And yet, Niger Republic is a very wretched and poor country. And how does France do this? They are able to get some so-called leaders in Niger, force them over the people, and use them to extract the resources of their country, make those few people more excessively rich with mansions in France and part of Europe. But the people of Niger are in abject poverty. That was what people saw in Mali, and they said enough is enough. That was what the people saw in Burkina Faso and with Guinea, and said enough is enough. In Nigeria, are we any different? Nigeria is very rich in gas, in crude oil, in diverse minerals. The so-called rulers we have engage these foreign powers, go and buy mansions in America and Europe, and leave the vast majority of us in abject poverty. So there is absolutely no difference from what's going on in Nigeria and what's going on in all those African countries which are headed by a military regime. It's unfortunate we are in this position, but the reality is that Nigerians should guide their loins. Because when we sleep over our rights, this kind of travesty of justice will continue ad infinitum. We should rise up and say enough is enough. Like those are compatriots in other parts of West Africa.
Expect ECOWAS declaration to reinstate President Bazoum.
Undermining the continent. And I think countries as Nigeria, who are pushing for invasion, are undermining the frustration of people on the continent in relation to poverty and all the struggles that they are experiencing, including the plundering of the resources of Africa. If they think it's gonna be Libya, I think this time around they must think again. And if they think it's gonna be Gambia, they must think again, because you have other countries, neighboring countries, who are part of the same region. I'm talking about Mali, I'm talking about Guinea, Burkina Faso, Algeria issued a similar statement, and we are told Senegal stands in support of a move not to invade Niger, but rather focus on the talks. And therefore, I think Nigeria at the moment, at its weakest moments, in terms of the economic challenges in that country, including the leadership of the incumbent, as you know, that is being challenged in the courts in Nigeria based on the outcome of the elections recently. I think we are likely to see a proxy war in West Africa, something that is not good for the continent. And I think the African Union is found wanting. It is very weak at the moment. At the helm, you have Comoros, a small country, and therefore the advice that's given to the region are going to assist the continent.
Barrister John Wokede, the Economic Community of West African States, the regional political and economic bloc with 15 member states, is mostly francophone. Only Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, Liberia, and Sierra Leone are anglophone. The francophone countries are very anxious. That is basically what the situation is. Now, this is where it starts getting complicated. Use of force was translated to war in the media, and ECOWAS became a Tinubu in quote affair. So you recall that ECOWAS is not just Nigeria, other Economic Community of West African States. But when the use of force was mentioned, it's segmented only President Tinubu, and therefore Tinubu was threatening to wage war on Niger when he made that statement, which angered the Nigerians. And so when he sent political allies there to see how they can have a dialogue, they completely severed ties and in fact closed their airspace to Nigerians, not just ECOWAS country, to Nigeria specifically. So the question I'm asking you is, with what Sophie Mokoena said, do you think that the facts that she stated out are logical facts to reason with the president's composure or disposition to the Niger situation?
We are quite aware that the president is looking for validation.
Okay.
He's looking for validation.
Validation in what aspect? If you recall that the ECOWAS Community of West African States have actually been literally spineless, because it was under their leadership Mali's case happened, Burkina Faso happened, nothing transpired. So do you think that this particular situation with Niger, and being the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu became the new chair, it was a way of authenticating his position and trying to refurbish the ECOWAS Union?
Yes, before this coup took place in Niger, there was a meeting, shortly after Tinubu was elected or selected as the chairman of ECOWAS. They had a meeting stating that they would not allow coup, in the West African sub-region, ECOWAS, basically. Some people came up to speak out regarding that decision, stating that for you not to allow coups, that you must put your houses in order and make sure the proper tenets of democracy are strictly adhered to. So shortly after that, a coup now happened in Niger. So we believe that Tinubu actually said that people came after him, stating that he knew quite well how he assumed office. So he was afraid of his own shadow, believing that mobilizing people against coups will also protect his own not so feminine position as the president of Nigeria regarding all the things that transpired during the election. So this might be what actually, so when the coup now happened, it was like a signal to him that, look, if you don't take time, this thing that actually happened in your backyard might just happen to you. Because there was a clamor for him not to be sworn in.
Okay.
He jumped that clamor during the swearing in. So many people came up, so many voices, so many people called upon because of constitutional breach. A lot of things happened. So his swearing in was not like that fanfare that we used to see where people Abuja was barricaded with security people warding off some roads and so many places. So it was like a war. It was like installing a military. I don't even know how to describe it.
Okay.
It was something unusual in Nigerian political landscape. But he eventually got over that. So he was already scared that, look, I'm not enjoying the popular support of the people. And because of that, the only way they can strike is either they strike through the courts, maybe I can play a game there, or they strike through the military.
Okay.
So let me, as ECOWAS chairman, let me find a way to restore every avenue that will enable them to strike through the military boys. So when it now happened in Niger, for him now, let me just not allow this thing to stand.
Okay.
But if I allow it to stand, it might be like a precedent, since at the backyard, they can easily talk to Nigerian counterparts to also overthrow my government.
Okay.
And again, when the coup began to have a kind of international coloration, having like interest of Western world, we can remember also what transpired during his period he has stayed as president. When EU report actually came up, shattering almost everything. That election was not free and fair, was not. His declaration was like faulted.
Literally mentioned all the anomalies Nigerians complained about,
and invariably saying that the election was like null and void, as not having followed the proper procedure, invalidating his leadership, his emergence as president. That was actually what that report said, but they didn't go ahead to say it.
All right.
So now he saw the same Western people having interest in Niger, and then through him, to like actualize that interest. So he was like, this guy were like hither to my enemy. Now they're becoming my friend. Let me just take advantage of this opportunity
and gain stronger ties and support with the Western world.
With the Western world. So I don't know whether they can help me to navigate this my naughty path. By the time I'm able to dance to their tune and then play a game that will be advantageous to their interests. Basically, I'll win them to my side.
All right.
And the only way to do that is to go to war, remove the military junta, then bring back, restore the ousted president and bring him back as president. But unfortunately, he's having a very, very chaotic situation. In the sense that you can't tell somebody how sweet food eating is.
All right.
The Nigerians have said that they want the junta. They have not called for any support. They have not called for any help. They have not told us they have any crisis situation that demands anybody's help. And as a matter of fact, it's their country. You can't come and tell them what is good for them.
Okay.
As when they are like crying under severe irregularities and crises and intimidation, maltreatment, brutality, and the rest of them. And the world can now build upon that as human rights violations or using stronger force to trample upon the rights of the people. Come in. But this is a country that is entirely happy about the new development.
Okay.
So what's the sense of going to war if not to serve your personal interests
and
to validate
your
electoral flaws?
Okay, so I don't want to believe that there is any fact to that. I think that's your disposition to this.
That's not his opinion.
But that's your disposition to. Barrister Ezeluche. So here is another. This is another question that I want you to actually help me understand based on the Constitution. You know, to authenticate the president's invasion in Niger or not. So here is where the situation got a little bit complicated and where the Constitution sort of enables him. Okay, so ironically, the president does not necessarily have to get Senate approval before deploying troops, going by the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So while Section 5, subsection 4A says, the president shall not declare a state of war between the Federation and another country except with the sanction of a resolution of both houses of the National Assembly sitting in a joint section, and B, except with the prior approval of the Senate, no member of the armed forces of the Federation shall be deployed on combat duty outside Nigeria. Meanwhile, the next section gives the president a leeway, which is Section 5, subsection 5, which says, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 4 of this section, the president, in consultation with the National Defense Council, may deploy members of the armed forces of the Federation on a limited combat duty outside Nigeria if he is satisfied that the national security is under imminent threats or danger, provided that the president shall, within 7 days of actual combat engagement, seek the consent of the Senate and shall thereafter give or refuse the said consent within 14 days. Barrister Ezeluche, I need you to explain what this means concerning the situation with Niger.
You see, from the very onset, some of us have held the opinion that the Nigerian Constitution is a fraudulent document. Right from the preamble of the Constitution, which says we the people have solemnly come together and decide on for ourselves this Constitution. The Nigerian Constitution is a fraudulent document that has so much incompatibility embedded in it. These sections you've now read, no problems. The president, it says, can order troops into a foreign country for a period of 7 days, within which he must get the approval of the National Assembly. Now, if he does that and the National Assembly does not approve within that period, that means the soldiers have to come back. I mean, we follow that, but it is best. Any democrat, any democracy will believe that before such deployment, the president must seek the approval and consent of the National Assembly. Otherwise, if these soldiers are sent abroad and they have to stay beyond the 7 days before Mr. President comes to seek approval, then those soldiers can validly reject or refuse any orders from their commander-in-chief. What I'm saying in essence is this. The Constitution of Nigeria is very complicated and has a lot of provisions which are antithetical to democracy. And where you have just read is one of the several that are against the spirit of democracy. But even if we follow these portions of the Constitution and the soldiers get deployed outside, it says within 7 days, the president must seek approval of the National Assembly. And if they don't give that approval, that means those troops will come back. So common sense will even tell you, before you engage into the process of military deployment, because these things cost a lot of money, you have to have logistics, you have to have the aircraft, you have to have the vehicles, the armament to move them into another country. And a non-country that they're not even aware of the terrain. It is only commonsensical that you seek the approval. So if Mr. Tinubu should move them out of the country without approval of the Senate and the House of Reps, and they now get there, and after within 7 days, there is a rejection of that same deployment, and those troops must come back or reject any further orders by the commander-in-chief. And if the president continues, it amounts to a coup. What is a coup? A coup is when you are ruling against the constitutional provisions. Let us not think that a coup is when people keep on come and shoot guns at the State House. No. If you rule against the spirit of the Constitution, then you have technically committed a coup. That you are still there in office does not mean that there is no coup. And so I hope that the soldiers, the troops that are involved will realize this, because the soldiers and both the army and the military, they swear an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of the Federal Republic, not to an individual. And that means that if whoever is occupying the office of the president goes against the Constitution, then the soldiers are duty bound to reject whatever orders that are unconstitutional and are against the spirit of not just ECOWAS but also the Constitution. One other part of the Constitution which you should also read, which I believe supersedes the section you have just read, is Section 19 of Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Which Chapter 2 is the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. This is what actually guides Nigeria's policy in everything. So in real sense, it can be said to override whatever other provisions that relate to government policy. Section 19 enjoins the Nigerian government to always be Pan-Africanist and work towards communalism and unity of Africa. In essence, it's against Nigeria leading into war against any African country. That is the policy, the fundamental policy of the Nigerian state. And that means that the so-called attack which the government wants to do against Niger violates the Section 19 of the Nigerian Constitution. Nigerians should familiarize themselves with their Constitution, for goodness sake. It's not a book that is hidden somewhere. Section 19 of the Nigerian Constitution can be read by anybody. In it, the cornerstone of Nigerian foreign policy is Africa and the unity and sustainability of Africa. So why will somebody who calls himself a Nigerian president, who has sworn an oath to uphold the Nigerian Constitution, including Section 19 of the Nigerian Constitution, embark on policies that are against the Nigerian Constitution?
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Barrister Ezra. Barrister Joe, do you have something to counter what he said? Because I saw you nodding your head.
The point is that, some sections of the Constitution, I agree with him what he said regarding the controversies and inconsistencies in the Constitution. Because sometimes, even as a lawyer, when you read certain sections of the Constitution and then begin to read the proviso, you'll just be lost as to what do you now do? Because if you're not smart enough to marry the proviso with some other provisions of the Constitution, you might find it difficult to apply the correct principles as enunciated in that section of the Constitution. But to maintain Pan-Africanism and the peace and progress of Africa, and rightly said, regarding that Section 19, the president is subject to various interpretations, because it depends on how the person that wants to restore peace is seeing that peace. Some might see coup as bringing crisis, and removing a military government and bringing back democratically elected government as restoring peace. Do you understand my point now? So it does not necessarily mean that a country, no African country can go to war against other African country. It depends on the purpose for going to that war. I saw what happened in Liberia at a certain point in time. Even what happened in Congo when Obasanjo led Nigerian troops to Congo and other places. It was that spirit of Pan-Africanism, but it was a war. So sometimes some peace might be achieved through dialogue, some might be achieved through military intervention, some might be achieved through so many diplomatic, approaches and other things. And again, that subsection you read, I think that subsection was couched to take care of extreme emergency. Where a president will deploy troops before seeking the approval of the Senate. That was the intention of the draftsman there. In the event getting approval of the Senate might seem difficult or cumbersome at a certain state, depending on the emergency of that situation, that the president might deploy troops, then come back to seek the approval of the Senate. But in every instance, the approval of the Senate must be properly sought and obtained. But that was why it was 7 days to say come back. But now the question is this: is there an emergency in the war, a war transpired in the Niger Republic? Another question is this: is it our problem? Are they threatening our territorial integrity? Are they fighting war with Nigeria? Are we under any threat by what happened in Niger? Like we rightly said, it has happened in Burkina Faso, it has happened in Mali, and these are neighboring countries too. What are we going to suffer by having a military regime in Niger? After all, we have had military regime in Nigeria for years, almost 35 years of our existence. We are ruled by the military. And no other country wanted to stop the use of military in Nigeria through their own intervention or through their own interruption. IBB ruled for close to 9 years, or Gowon ruled for close to 10 years. Even Buhari ruled for 3 years. I mean, some of those have been 1 year. The rest of them, it was when we Nigerians were able to like sort out our issues, and then we brought back democracy, democracy.
All
so
right.
if there's any military intervention, I believe it is exclusively the right of that country that will determine when they are tired with their military, and then call for return to civilian rule.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Ijeoma Egwuatu. Godswill Akpabio, right? We're moving on now to other issues that trended during the week. That is the Senate President. He found himself in quite an embarrassing situation after revealing that money has been sent to senators to enjoy their recess. This actually happened on Monday. Now, the upper legislative chamber concluded the screening and confirmation of President Bola Tinubu's ministerial nominees, right? So thereafter, the senators adjourned plenary to September 26. While he was addressing his colleagues before the adjournment was moved, Akpabio made a very interesting statement that caught the attention of quite a lot of Nigerians. A lot of people actually made a statement that Akpabio sometimes speaks like that, before thinking. I want us to listen to that particular statement before we go further.
In order to enable all of us to enjoy our holidays, a token has been sent to our various accounts by the clerk of the National Assembly. I withdraw that statement. In order to allow you to enjoy your holiday, the Senate President has sent prayers to your mailboxes. To assist you to go on a safe journey and return.
So did you watch that? Godswill Akpabio seemed a little bit confused. He didn't even know what they were saying. He forgot that the press was there. But the truth of the matter is this, because I need us to talk.
It's a practice that's been going on.
It's quite unfortunate.
Just let the cat out of the bag.
Yes. Now, so this was something that was brazenly said, and this is the reason why I am coming to that. So apparently, if you recall, in July, sometime in July, the Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria denied alleged plans, right, by the association to increase the prompt price of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, to 700 naira per litre. This was the statement they said in July. In fact, that was when they increased it to 617. So there were speculations that it would go up to 700, but Ipman totally denied. However, on Friday, Ipman is saying that due to the weakened naira, there is a possibility of petrol increment, and which brings us to the question: if the house, through the clerk, gets money sent to them to enjoy their holidays, these are the frivolous expenses and extravagancy of government and of government officials, and this is basically what may transpire anytime soon. Why are Nigerians quiet? Barrister Eze-Oluche, this question is specifically for you.
Well, I would say Nigerians have been pummeled into docility. They have been, pauperized, and this is now like the land of the living dead. Many people are walking around consuming oxygen, breathing in and out, but in all realities, they are as good as dead and gone. Otherwise, there is simply no rationale for people where the majority of people are living under $1 a day, and then you have these characters in the National Assembly giving themselves tokens, and they are humongous sums. In fact, the range of these amounts could be anything between 50 and 100 million. They were quick enough to sneak out a text message that said it was 2 million. That is not true. These guys give their girlfriends 2 million for weekend. So they talk about the announced on the floor of the Senate. I mean, when you use the word 100 million, let them come up and tell us exactly how much it was. But what will worry Nigerians more is that in that same Senate, you have members of the Labour Party, the PDP, the APC, the IPP, the SDP. They are all there. And none has come out yet to tell us, okay, this is the amount we got for this token, and I'm ashamed by what they have in the figure, and so I'm using my own to pay back to my constituency or to do whatsoever, or I'm not accepting it. They have all kept quiet, like people who are in cohorts to denigrate and destroy Nigeria. That is what should worry Nigerians most. And not that this, because it was a spill. It mistakenly spilled out the bean. One of the things that was very strange, and we should take instructions from, is the fact that the person who went to approach Akpabio to tell him that, hey, you are going too far, was the same PDP senator from Abia State who was making so much noise about Keyamo nomination. And people were hailing him that, oh, we're going to have a robust Senate. But it was the character who went to Akpabio to say, Mr. Man, we are still on live programming.
Yes.
Take it easy. So, I mean, can we impose any hope in this Senate? Unfortunately, the answer is no. And also, of critical importance is that this Senate had the guts, the National Assembly had the guts, in a time when Nigeria is at the verge of going to war, sending our troops to war, to adjourn sitting till September 26th. Can you imagine that? And that is over a month plus. They want to go on holidays abroad or whatever. And okay, tomorrow now, when Mr. Tinubu tells the Nigerian troops to move into Niger, he said because there's no National Assembly to bring the thing before.
So he'll make the ultimate decision.
Beautiful. So I mean, these guys are taking us for a joke, and I do not know what it will take to wake up Nigerians. I don't know what it will take, because the way these things work all over the world is this: if your rulers are pushing you to the wall, and you're not saying enough is enough, they will keep on pushing you and pushing you and pushing you until you can even disattend to the wall, because the greed, the avarice that moves them to that kind of annihilistic tendencies, they'll not stop until they obliterate the population. Is that what we want? What else are we waiting for?
All right,
I mean,
thank you.
At least we thank Mr. Fabio for this very exposure into the things that will happen to Nigeria in the next couple of, and I'm sure he will never ever mention token again on the floor.
I hope so.
You hope so?
Yeah, I hope you will never, because it ran wildfire.
No, it will be paid, but it will not be mentioned again. It will be paid, but it will not be mentioned. That's the unfortunate part of it. Thank you.
All right, Barrister Chomokete, here is the situation, right? We're moving on to more judicial matters because we need to open the phone lines now. This morning, right, the tribunal reached a verdict on the petitions lodged by the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party against the election of Governor Babajide Sanwo-olu of Lagos State. Now, the decision, which carries substantial implications for the political landscape, stands as a testament to the power of due process and democratic mechanisms that underpin the society. So, two challenges challenging the election of Governor Babajide Sanwo-olu and his deputy, Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, have been filed with the Lagos State Election Petition Tribunal, which has reserved its judgment. So, on Saturday, the three-person tribunal, presided over by Justice Arum Ashom, said it would inform the petitions parties of the date on which the verdict would be rendered. Ashom disclosed this after the parties' attorneys adopted the final written addresses. Sanwo-olu and Hamzat of the All Progressives Congress are up for, literally at the time they were up for elections. But Badebo Road Vival of the Labour Party and Abdulaziz Adeniran, also known as Jandor of the People's Democratic Party, are actually challenging, the win of Babajide Sanwo-olu at the governor's, that is the Election Petition Tribunal in Lagos State. And so, with bated breath, the nation is watching as the tribunal is meticulously weighing the evidence and arguments presented by both parties. Now, the outcome serves as a reminder that the legal system plays a pivotal role in shaping the trajectory of governance and public trust in the democratic process. So just like how Nigerians are with bated breath awaiting the presidential tribunal's judgment, so is the state government as well. But let's look at the fact that the tribunal is still deciding on which way to go. They do have up until September to give us a verdict. But do you want to tell me that
and procedures regarding election petition matters? You can't hold it against them until when there is a clear violation.
All right.
Even ordinary matters in court, after adoption of written addresses, they have 90 days, which is 3 months. So within that time, they can decide to deliver judgment a day before the expiration of that 90 days.
Okay.
Some of them will deliver on that 90. Some may not even deliver and call upon you as a lawyer to come and readopt your final written address again. That's allow them to still have time to deliver. Now, I know instances who have been in court and they were not able to do this, but come and readopt so they can still. Because if you don't readopt your final written address and they deliver that judgment outside that 90 days, that judgment will become a nullity.
Okay.
The other party may go on appeal to challenge that judgment as a nullity. Just like with what happened, although not on all fours, regarding what happened in Ojo Carlos situation, where a judge that was already promoted at the Court of Appeal still came back and delivered a judgment. At that point in time, he's no longer Federal High Court judge again, so it was seen as a nullity. So, but if they are still within the time, provided for, within the rules, they still have time. They still have to exercise authority regarding that issue within that period. Okay. So they might have known what the outcome might be, and they might have concluded. They might not have concluded. Within your own, understanding of the law, it is like just like when people tell us, lawyer, can't find that in tomorrow. It's not a letter. Lawyer, he said, what do you think that processes that will prepare a filing court? What do you think that they are? Do you think that will just enter into the office, draft a letter, and go file in court? I said, come on, this is a process. You have so many things to do. You have so many arguments to look into. You have so many authorities to consider. The most recent authorities, Supreme Court authorities, the most recent authorities in Supreme Court, authorities in the Appeal Court, some other, some materials to look into, even some foreign jurisdictions that can act as persuasive reasoning. Might not have a binding effect on Nigerian laws, but might act as persuasive, support to some judgments. So they need to have all these things done. Okay. A good judgment is supposed to cover all the fields. If you see where a judge has given a good judgment, even as a lawyer, if you are, on the other side, not the one that actually judgment favored, you may not want to go on appeal because we have preempted what the appeal will be. By the time you look at all the grounds that they gave, all the issues they considered, and all the authorities they cited, and their own reason and everything, it was be like a well clearly thought out judgment. And you just stand in the court and tell your client, go home. Because that judgment is like quite deep, quite exhaustive, covered all the field, meritorious and everything. Because the judge gave a very diligent judgment. But we see judges that just, some of them, may just come to their chambers in the morning, 9 o'clock, they are not there, 9:30, and they are not there, 10 o'clock, they are not there. When I ask them what to do, I said, So, in that kind of situation, some of them might read, they might read, and they will not even read their own judgment clearly. Some might read some paragraphs or whatever, say, okay, apply for CTC and get the rest of the judgment. You know that judgment might have some errors. Some might even go back. I have seen a situation where some judges read some judgments in the open court, and when you see the CTC, they made some corrections from what they read in the open court with what you now have as CTC of that judgment, which is not good. Okay. So it's good if we allow them to thoroughly. All right. Because this is a very, very contentious issue.
Yes.
Very contentious.
Based on the statement you want.
Yes.
You want
so they have to come up with a judgment that will satisfy the curiosity of every Nigerian. So at the winner, we know that actually I won. Okay. And the loser, we know that actually
they lost.
We lost. Right. Not a judgment that will create a lot of loopholes.
Okay.
Although if it creates such loopholes, the other party might have a reason to go on appeal. But it's not always good for appeal to, quash the judgment of the lower courts for being incompetent, lacking in merit and all that. All right. And set aside that judgment and come up with something different from what the lower court. Most of the intelligent judges, they always pride themselves as when you go on appeal with their judgment, appeal handling quash their judgments.
All right, thank you. Barrister Eze Eluchi, right? The gravity of the situation cannot be overstated, as the tribunal's verdict has the potential to alter the course of the political dynamic. And the reason why this statement is being made is the fact that the owner of that is Tunde Bakari, right? I think the pastor of the Lateran, one of the churches, one of the Lateran assemblies. I think that's the church. I can't really recall. He is the Reverend General Overseer of that particular church, and he made a statement that he warned against the Emiloko kind of politics. Now, with the Emiloko mantra, whichever way, so long as it helps you. People say whatever method it is you imbibe, so long as it helps you in whatever journey or cause that you're on, and you clinch it, then you're good to go. But he is saying that it is a very wrong nature, that it poses a tendency of authoritarianism. That's basically what he said. He said it poses a nature of authoritarianism. I let you go. Do you think that statement he made was true?
Certainly. When somebody says local, that's I am the one, it is my turn, and he holds sway, he gets away with that, it's a coup. I mean, there's no difference between that statement, I am the one, that whatever you guys go and do on election day, it's your business. I am going to be in office come so and so time. So when a man does that and it sails through, you now wonder why people would mistake it for a democracy, or what will still deceive themselves or delude themselves into thinking we have a democracy. Long before the election, Mr. Bola Tinubu had told us that in politics, you go, you grab it, you snatch it, you run away with it, and you fight for it. Now, you have men in Niger Republic who have also seen power. They have grabbed it, they have fought for it, they have snatched it, and have run away with it. And you want to take a gun to that place to fight them for doing exactly what you've done? Come on. Emiloko is a coup. That word, Emiloko, I am the next, is a coup plot. And in Nigeria, it worked. Mr. Tinubu is the president. It did not count on our votes, but because if he respects the vote of the people, he will not make such nonsensical statements. He will say, okay, the vote of the people will count. But when you say, Emiloko, I am the next, irrespective of what the people say, that in essence is a coup. And I keep on saying, the young men in Niger Republic, General Chiani and his members have done what they want, what the Tinubu did. They have grabbed it, they have fought for it, they have run away with it, and they have snatched it. So what else? Let them be at peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barrister Eze. But I want to say something that those are the opinion and the words of Barrister Eze Eluche. It is important.
Oh, certainly. Let me say that myself. Whatever views I express are my personal opinion.
No. Because he used some words which are.
He said snatch, whatever, take our wrong with it.
Okay, so I just want to.
He never denied it.
I just want to clarify.
There's a video to that effect.
I just want to clarify that there is the opinions of Barrister Eze. Those are the words.
Don't worry. I'm not my views are my views.
All right.
They have nothing to do with the voice of the people. They are my personal views.
All right.
But like I said from the onset, it's an outcome of a lot of think tanks.
All right. Okay. Barrister Eze Eluche, thank you so much. Honestly speaking, thank you for your time. We need to take phone calls, and thank you actually for coming on the program this evening.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so we have let Barrister Eze Eluche go off the line so that we can take your calls. It's very important that we have to hear what you have to say concerning the conversation that we're having this evening on the Political Spotlight. So the number is 0700 903 903 903. That's the number for you to call, 0700 903 903 903. And then, of course, the WhatsApp number is 0700 903 9039, 0700 903 9039. Okay, so that's the number that you can send your WhatsApp messages to, and the number that you can call to be part of the conversation is 0700 903 9039. Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Okoli is my name from Bagada.
All right,
yes.
From Bagada.
Yes. Now, you ask the question, why is this stated clearly, stating as to the actual position of how this election was won? And a number of other people have said so. So I will still join in that your question to ask, if that is truly the case, why this prolonged delay? Because so many people are anxious.
Okay.
to know what the actual result is.
Okay.
So when then will this judgment be delivered? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Barrister John Walker, before you respond to his question, I also have a question on WhatsApp. And this is from Olu. Olu says, Esther, your guest was so bitter to the extent of assuming that ECOWAS decisions is now Tinubu's decisions just because his candidate lost election against the president. Now, my guest did not say who his candidate is, but let's continue. Since your guest is now talking about legitimacy, he should tell Nigerians which of the presidential election since 1999 that was not challenged in court. If Niger agrees to be a member of ECOWAS, they must be ready to obey ECOWAS rule. Your guest can't use what he sees on social media to justify people's support. The coup, Esther. You are in this country when millions of people came out to support Abacha, a military dictator, to become Nigeria's president. And that is by Olu, who is sending us a message from Badagry. All right, Olu, thank you so much for that particular message. Now, so somebody also says, VOP crew, I have always noticed that National Assembly guys are one and united on personal matters, but divided when you come to national issues. Though I don't expect any disclosure of amounts they have shared, the fact remains that they cannot withdraw information which has gone viral already. As much as I agree that every good leader requires a certain degree of sense of humor, over application of it will learn Akpabio into the unpleasant situation if he doesn't retract his step. When the king delays judgment on a case involving one of his high chiefs, know that the tide is against the high chief. This is what is playing out in Nigeria's jurisprudence. Personally, I don't envy Bat for being at the ECOWAS headship at this time of war brewing in Niger. Every discerning mind would see this as a bad omen. Whoever roped him into accepting ECOWAS leadership now should be his greatest enemy. Tinubu should tread with caution in order not to be pushed in a hurry into a fratricidal war against Nigerians, majority of whom are in a jubilant mood over the ouster of their elected president, and it will not be taken kindly with Nigerians should our president supervise avoidable war against them in the name of defending democracy. And this is from Tony Anele from Ijeoma. All right, thank you so much, Tony, for that particular message. What's your response to what that the question that the other man asked concerning the tribunal's verdicts? How long will it take them to give their verdicts?
They have a time frame of 180 days to hear every application and deliver judgment, and they are still within time.
All right.
So you cannot preempt. Yes, in law, let me also clear him. You might know what the judgment might be.
Okay.
Even a judge might know what the judgment might be.
Okay.
But it's not like open announcements where you come to podium and another somebody has won. You can't just make such announcement. You must back it up with the rules, with precedents, with cases, with authorities, with analysis of all the arguments of all the lawyers.
All right.
And everything that the cross-examination, evidence in chief, and everything. You have to read them one by one. You have to state all the arguments of all the lawyers. You have to state even the arguments within their written addresses. You have to state what transpired during cross-examination. These are components of the judgment.
All right. Hello, good evening.
That's it.
Good evening.
Good evening. Your name and location, please.
My name is Friday.
Friday, location, please.
I'm calling from Ikpaja.
All right, Friday, please go ahead.
You see, a lot of people, when they have opportunity talking on air, they will come and say a lot of rubbish.
Okay.
Nigeria is not going to war with Niger.
Okay.
Tinubu is not going to to fight in Niger. It's not Tinubu. ECOWAS is out to restore democracy.
Okay.
And people are saying that Tinubu is going to fight Niger, is going to war in Niger. I don't know what or where they are gathering this information
okay,
from.
so I would like to take you back somewhere, okay? And I hope that you're able to understand the reason why Nigerians took it upon themselves and attributed it, right, to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, this is where it became dicey. It became dicey where the president made a statement where he said that I will, okay? He made a statement where he said, I give you 7 days to return President Bazoum into power. Can you let me finish? I'm trying to explain something where that particular explanation came from, where it became a very big mantra. So when that particular statement was made, that is when it became a Tinubu factor, because there was the process of having to go through the National Assembly. He had not gone to National Assembly at the time.
Tinubu is the head of ECOWAS. So you understand?
Okay, go ahead, please.
He has spoken as the head of ECOWAS.
But he has to consult other members. Does that give him the sole right?
Does that give him the right to decide whether he's guilty or not?
Let him talk, please. Let him go ahead.
So when you are president of a group,
the statement he says, I am giving Niger 7 days, was not attributed to his personal being.
But Selector began to consult after that statement. Why would he not consult? He would have gone to work without consulting anybody again.
As the head of ECOWAS. So I don't know how you
being the head of a group, I'm the president of a group. Does that give me the right to make my personal statements regarding the group?
Right.
Without consulting
something that people don't understand. Excuse me, please.
Allow him to talk. Go ahead, please.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go
there
ahead.
Is something that Nigerians don't understand, especially those in the other faith. We have two major faiths in this country. Okay. We have two major religions in this country: Christian and Islam. And now Islam is trying to wage war by taking over Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso.
How do you know that? How are you certain, Mr. Frank? You're bringing a different dimension to the conversation now.
No,
you're bringing a different dimension to the conversation. I will not let you continue with that. You made a statement. Wait, Mr. Friday, please. Let's talk with decorum. Let's talk with decorum. You made wait. You made a statement. Your first statement where you said that Nigerians are getting it confused. That Tinubu is not going to war with Niger. You were trying to defend the fact that he was representing ECOWAS, and I'll try to point out something to you where the headline went, where he said, I give you 7 days without consultation with the Senate as provided in the Constitution.
Even without ECOWAS resolution.
Without ECOWAS resolution. He hadn't met with ECOWAS. He hadn't met with the Senate.
ECOWAS resolved 3 days ago.
And he made the statement. So that was where Nigerians now made it a Tinubu affair. Like, why is Tinubu declaring a potential of war on Niger when consultation had not been made with ECOWAS, including the Senate? And when he eventually went to the Senate, you could see that they refused it. Eventually, ECOWAS has already met.
Okay.
So that's
basically 3 days ago.
That's where the Tinubu factor came at play.
ECOWAS approved 3 days ago. 3 days ago. 7 days has expired. So why did Nigerians go wrong then?
All right, go ahead, Mr.
We have to
Friday.
be detailed in the analysis
I
before we come on
your point.
Okay.
But if you have listened to the protesters in Kano, their demand, one of their demands, they said they need Islam. Are you aware of that?
Nobody.
Or you can just go back to online and check. No, excuse me.
You know
I'm talking about the protesters.
The former Bazoum is a Muslim.
The problem now is I think this caller
95% of Nigerian people are Muslims.
The caller is I think I don't know.
They are not even Christian country.
I don't know where his train of thought is. He came up with the first argument which we had clarified, and now he's going into something else. Of course, the Nigerians are predominantly Muslims, and of course the borderline with Nigeria in the north, they are predominantly Muslims there. I don't know why you're bringing in that.
They have very few Christians in
Niger.
Very not up to like 10% Christian.
0700 903 903 903. That's the number. Please, when you call, please stay on the facts. Let's be logical in our point of view to the conversation that we're having. Let's be factual with our statements that we're making, and please let's speak with decorum. 0700 903 903 903. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. What's your name?
Yeah, good evening, Madam Esther.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine there. My name is Nemeko from Ejibo.
All right, Mr. Nemeka, please go ahead.
My greeting to all your guests. They spoke well.
Thank you.
They spoke true to the matter.
Okay.
You know, my dear, truth is too bitter, but it is very, very good to your health. Truth is too bitter, but it's very, very good to everyone's soul.
Okay.
And if you want your soul to be free, accept the truth, embrace it, say it. We as a nation, we decide to be enemy of the truth. That's why we get everything we do in this country wrong.
Okay.
You see wrong thing, you try to defend wrong thing. Let me tell you, my dear. You see all those men that are parading themselves as ECOWAS leaders. None of them deserve any excellent recommended at all. None of them. Let's start from beginning to the end.
Okay.
And check their records.
Okay. Thank you.
Ijeoma in Peking, is he telling us so he's practicing democracy in this country? From his father to his own ruling? Akufo-Addo of Ghana here. Is he telling me that he's practicing democracy? 80 people lost their life last election. Here in Lagos, for my witness, for my kuro eyes, people are threatening people not to come and vote. Is that democracy? Let's take ourselves the truth this time around, though.
Right.
The Dr. Way said something at their last summit the other time, and I'm quoting it again today. He said all of them were there for that place, made the listen well. They will not be looking at irregularity, corruption, and impunity going on all these countries, that they will keep quiet. And when this military wake up, then everybody will be running about. Say, let's go and restore democracy. What do you mean by democracy? Is it not for the people? Anything that goes against the people is not more a democracy. It's a dictator. You rule 10 years, you want to change the constitution, the people take you out. Yeah, you are saying, none of them is saying you stop because of that problem. Let me tell you, my brother, you see, these people, Russia and these people.
Ukraine.
You know, say, Ukraine. America and France, British, everybody, NATO, you don't worry, we do your back. Maybe Ukraine the battleground now.
All right, thank you so much for your call this evening. I have a WhatsApp message. I would like to read that one. Good evening, Esther and the guest. Democracy shouldn't be in just a name. It should be in practice. It should truly be what it's supposed to be in our region. If truly is what it is, there won't be all these debates between military rule and democracy. And that's from Yinka. Yinka is sending that message from Ifako. Thank you so much, Yinka, for that message. Hello? Kindly turn down the volume of your radio, please.
Okay. My name is Mr. Robert. I'm calling from Niger.
All right, Mr. Robert, please go ahead.
One, I would like to inform you people that your line is breaking.
Okay.
Inside the people cannot get to people so freely.
You've been trying to connect, it's not connecting, or it's when you hear the callers call, it's not smooth. Which one is it?
Exactly. When the callers try to analyze their opinion, it is cutting. Yeah, you are not getting it very clearly.
Sorry. We do apologize for that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good. My greetings to your guest.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Good evening.
You see, each time we want to talk about this nature of a thing, there are certain people that trying to hijack it, like we are imposing, or we want to talk against the presidency. So it is always like that. Each time you want to put Nigeria through where they are getting it wrong. But let us just watch closely what this ECOWAS is about.
Okay.
Go to Nigeria. But I like the way that ECOWAS are taking. Let all the French countries alone.
Okay.
Then we now decide to take their full step and let Nigeria be on their own.
All right.
In other side of presidency, our presidency is now understanding all the mistake he has put in front before. Okay. I don't think he still has the opinion to go fight in Niger.
Okay.
I read my case here.
Thank you. Okay, so there's something I want to clarify. The president initially said if the Nigerians do not restore President Bazoum. Of course, there'll be a military invasion at the time, but now there is just a standby military force. However, the Nigerians, all right, in person of Tijani, that is Abdurrahmane Tijani, on Saturday they had a meeting with Nigeria's intervention team comprising of Islamic scholars, and they said they are ready for diplomacy. They are actually ready for dialogue, and the scholars were led by Balalau, the national chairman of Jama'atu Izalatu Bida Waikamatu Sunnah, and met with Tijani for several hours in Niger's capital, Niamey. So apparently, according to Lau, today the coup leader and Islamic scholars deliberated on several issues, which included the demand by ECOWAS leaders that democratically elected President Bazoum be reinstated. Okay, and Lau said that the clerics were in Niger on behalf of President Bola Tinubu, who accepted their request to intervene. So they told General Tijani that the visit to Niger was to engage in a constructive dialogue to encourage him and other military leaders behind the coup to tow the path of peace instead of war in order to resolve the crisis. Meanwhile, Tijani has responded that the doors are open to explore diplomacy and peace in resolving the matter, and that he now emphasized that it was painful that the Economic Community of West African States did not hear the junta side of the matter before issuing ultimatums, which brings me back to the first caller, why it became a Tinubu affair, because dialogue had not been sought after. You just heard that the coup had taken over, and then you just gave 7 days ultimatum without asking questions. Why, you know. So that's basically why the junta severed ties with Nigeria, and then when their diplomatic team came the first time, they declined to have that negotiation with them. So Tijani is saying now that they were angry with ECOWAS because they declared an ultimatum without listening to what the junta had to say. The number to call is 0700 903 903 903. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Name and location, please.
You're speaking with Ijeoma from Kotu.
From Ijeoma?
Okay, the question I want to ask is this. Where are those ECOWAS during those days that the blood of innocent Nigerians are being shed, especially in the part of the north and some part of the east? Where are those ECOWAS that are fighting now? Are they fighting?
It's not the place of ECOWAS to intervene in internal affairs in Nigeria. ECOWAS is a community of West African states. So they interfere with member states having issues, not within individual countries. Our militaries are meant to resolve that.
Okay, but the coup, is it not internal issue?
The coup, yes, is an internal issue, but then Niger is part of an economic community of West African states. So when something like that happens, it is normal for ECOWAS to react.
But they cannot react when they are killing support. Even when some president disobeyed.
They didn't kill anybody in Niger. It was just a coup that took place. Nobody had been killed.
Even when the leaders, president disobeyed court order, nobody was talking.
What court order, please? What president disobeyed what court order?
I don't understand the whole thing.
Okay, I think it's better you follow up with the conversation, please, because you weren't following up. There was no court order. Nobody was killed. Nobody died. The Nigerians are actually happy with the coup that took place. The only thing is the president's declaration immediately the coup happened, which a couple of analysts and diplomatic analysts have said was a wrong call to make. But nobody died. The president, there was no court order to anything. All right. Hello. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. Your name, good evening.
My name is Billy Grace.
All right.
And I'm calling you from Igondo.
All right, please go ahead.
Now, I just needed to find out.
Can you kindly turn down the audio of your radio? Turn down the audio of your radio, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear now?
Yes. There's no feedback.
I just needed to find out who are the advisors of the president.
Okay.
Have they not told the president that if he takes a gun to Niger Republic as it is now, that our population here in Nigeria are no longer safe? Because our borders are porous. And the population in Niger will be running helter-skelter for safety. The first country they run into is Nigeria. Are they not advising him that it's not even safe to use force? And now that he's even persuasive, he's trying to look for people, go the other way around now, diplomatic talks and all of that. I think your guests have spoken so much about it. And I like the way that they took it. I think it is right that the president should, let me use the word, cool on Niger Republic and actually concentrate on what is happening in Nigeria. And simmer down on the ECOWAS duties and concentrate on him being the president of Nigeria. I think that's what he should be doing now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Barrister Joe, I'll get to you to give us your final statement, but let me just take a final call because we need to wrap up the program. 0700 903 903 903. That's the number to call. Hello, good evening.
Hello, Curly calling once again.
Oh, okay. No, please, just you would 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Please,
okay.
Yes.
I think it's time to say that Nigeria is meddling in the internal affairs of Niger. Nigeria has done so much for African countries and some other parts of the world. Besides that, Nigerians continue to come to Nigeria during census, for instance. They will come here and increase the population of the northern fringes. During elections, they will come to participate in our elections. They participated in it. During the Civil War, they played such significant roles too. So, Nigeria has always tried to help these countries, including this very issue of ECOWAS. No matter the ways that these things have been seen, yes, mistakes must have been made. But if Nigeria doesn't do anything strategic in this matter, if I say ECOWAS, doesn't do anything strategic, it could lead to so many problems. Look at the influx of insurgents and so on to Nigeria and some other countries. They go to destabilize such countries. Nigeria should not just, ECOWAS should not just keep quiet about it. Yes, there are irregularities in the affairs of the leaders of so many of these countries. It's unfortunate, but something has to be done. There must be order. And the West should not continue to dictate to us in those respects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Barrister Joe, finally, because we can't take any more calls, but here is I think we need to contextualize the situation. Like the situation is this. The last caller said that Niger has literally become a part of Nigeria because if you go to the northeast, they've intermarried, they're like communal members and all of that. Agreed. Also, any situation that has to do with security within a country, the country deals with it. But the reason why Nigeria ECOWAS interfered in the case of Niger is because if you notice, Mali is now a military government. Burkina Faso is a military government. Possibly the chairman of ECOWAS at the time was not very active to, do something about it and make sure that democracy is restored. So, being the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu just recently became the chair, do you think that it was out of, immediately he heard that a coup had transpired in Niger, he wanted to act immediately without, before thinking or before doing anything else, before considering anything, to show a sense of might, to show a sense that he has the spine and that the ECOWAS under the former chair is no longer what it is? Because it is true that ECOWAS needed to take a firm grip on this. When you see that surrounding West African nations are going back to the military junta. But the problem, is it about stating for them to resume the democratic system of government if it doesn't work for them? Or is it about ECOWAS doing the needful in talking about true issues of leadership within their communities? I need your take on that before we wrap up.
ECOWAS should work more on deepening democracy, on ensuring that the real principles of and tenets of democracy are in place. They also guide against some leaders of ECOWAS countries trying to perpetuate themselves in power, trying to forcefully alter the contents of their constitution in order to suit their selfish and personal desires. They also have to work on ensuring that good governance is pivotal in every affair of any ECOWAS country and community. They should not just only focus on whether ECOWAS country is led by so-called democratic government or by the military. After all, the taste of the eating is in the pudding.
Okay.
The bottom part of everything is that how sweet is the food.
Okay.
If you tell someone that, look, military government will give them what they want, they will settle down for it. It's a matter of the masses getting what they want from their leader.
All right.
The appellation is just like something superficial.
Okay.
Like for instance, in China, they practice authoritarianism.
Yes, and it works for them.
There's no democracy in China, but it works for them. They've moved from being like a neglected country in Asia to becoming the second biggest economy in the world.
Okay.
In Russia, have you ever had that they conduct an election to decide whether Putin will remain in office or not? Putin has been in office more than how many years now in Russia? And have you had them complaining? Because it is working for them.
All right, Barrister.
So in Saudi Arabia and some of all these Arab Emirates, have you ever heard about elections going on in all those Arab countries? They don't conduct elections.
All right.
So let us also be careful.
Okay.
If Africans are not ripe enough to practice democracy, let us know whether we'll continue democracy or not. And if you are ripe to practice democracy, let us practice the real democracy.
All right, thank you, Barrister
The voice
Joe.
of the people will prevail over voice of few selected selfish individuals.
Thank you, Barrister John Wokede. Barrister Eze Eluchi as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I do know that you were on a constrained situation, but you came on because of your passion, as usual, when it comes to issues that has to do with governance. My name is Esther Nwachukwu. You can follow me on social media at Esther Nwaz on Twitter. That's ESTANWAZ on Instagram. On Twitter, it's of the people 90.3 FM. That's your frequency. You can follow us on YouTube as well, and across all our social media handles is at VOP 90.3 FM. Thank you, Barrister Joe Wokede, once again for coming on the political spotlight today, as well as Barrister Ezra. Once again, I want to say thank you. Up next is another interesting program that I know you want to be part of. However, bye for now. See you next Sunday.